Okay, so in order for us to have some practice and do some industry projects, I came across this page and I realized that it's a beautiful page that we can have some practice on, right? Look at this page. They have, like every page, there's always the folder. We have the folder section. They have the menu, which is the header section. You also have the body. So like by the end of today's class, I want us to see if we can build this section. You see this section. By using the skills that I teach you today or that we learn today, I want us to practice this together, building something like this. And then maybe I will give the talk part to you as an assignment. Does this sound good? Is this something that you would like to do?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is a company, right? This is the whole United States government. This is their website, right? And this is a project. This is something, a section of the website. So that when we finish, it's not like we are making things up, but we are just using what we know to do it. If somebody is doing this on the job, they're going to be doing the same thing that we're going to be doing. Okay. So that being said, am I recording this? Stop recording.
I think you stopped it.
But I think I started it also after that, right?
I didn't get any notifications.
So it tells me to stop recording, which means I'm already recording. So
Okay.
I will err on the side of caution and take a chance here. Okay.
It's recording. I see some little thing in the corner of my screen.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so today we're gonna be using our website. The company, we have a website. Global Tech Mastery, and my goal is to put a lot of tutorials over here, but I don't get a chance to do it. But now that we are doing CSS, I decided to go through the pen and do the tutorial for the CSS. So we're gonna keep using. I'll just be using this as my notes as we go. So we did a lot of things last 2 weeks. Is it last week or so? Last 2 weeks. Yeah, the last time we met, we did some of these things. The syntax. There's always a selector, property and value, and all of that. So we're not gonna go through it. So I have the whole section here for selectors. If you want to select an element on the page. Okay, so we're gonna move to the unit of measurement today. And then we're gonna do the colors. Then we go to the box model and then display, and then we're gonna start building the project. So let me create the folder in which we're gonna be working today. So as usual, you just have to open Visual Studio. This is the place where we've been working. I'm gonna delete this and do again. I'm gonna create a folder here for today's class. If you want to create a folder, this one says new folder, this icon, click on it, give it a name, CSS Day 2. But this is the second day for CSS class. I'm going in the folder, then I can add a file in here. So I'll call it CSS Day 2. You can always put an underscore here, Day 2 .html. So the code we're gonna write, we're gonna put it in here. We can also put our styles in another file, but we can also do it on the head of the file. So either way works. So, I'm gonna just put some code here that we're gonna be changing. But it turned out that you can also do this, and then if you hit tab, once you open a new document, I want to show you what I did. You can just type the exclamation sign like this, and then you hit tab on your computer, and it gives you all this code. We call this one the boilerplate, right? So most of the HTML documents will have these features. They will have the header, they will have the body. So just to make things easier and faster. So we're going to be creating elements here that we're going to be using. So Dave, can do this, and we're gonna have a div here. Let's put tech mastery in here, tech mastery. Let's also have a heading tag, H1, and I'll call this global tech mastery. Today I'll go through this pretty fast, but if you have any questions, just ask me, okay? These are just elements, HTML elements and stuff. So I'm gonna save this and try to execute. I'll go to the command palette. I'll select the live server and let's say open live server. And just use this. So it's taking a while for the live server to come up, which is a little strange. Let me select another one. Live server. Recently used, they said. So let me try to use what I recently used. Why is that not coming up? Is it already up and hidden somewhere? Okay. So that's not up yet, no problem. Let me select a different one. So all I'm doing, I want to execute our code, what we've just written. Let me see. This one is the preview. I don't want the preview. So why would this not work today? We just did it. Let me hit that start and see if it works. Or the code or language is not supported or defined. What is not supported here? Okay, let me remove this, the top here. Maybe some of these are a little strange. Hopefully not. So if something doesn't work, you have to debug it, right? And you don't know why it is not working. So you try different things. So let me now see if it would work. I took out some of the things that we don't need. Live server, so let me simply open this. So still it didn't work. Let me take out this language. This language shouldn't be the reason, but I'll remove it just to see. If this doesn't work, we're just gonna go back to the old way of executing our code. So live server, why would this not work? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I'm just curious. Maybe it's working somewhere, but we don't see it. Okay, well, it's not working. I'll look into that later on. So let's just view in browser. And this is what we've just done. We have the tech mastery and then we have H1 tag. Okay, so now let's go back to the tutorials. So I just want us to always remember that there are foundations in CSS. There are some foundational knowledge that we have. Once you have a firm understanding of those knowledge, you can just keep reusing them over and over again, right? So units in HTML. What is a unit? Unit of measurement. So who want to explain what a unit of measurement is? Like if I say that I have $5 and then I have, say, 5 Ghana cedis, you can see the dollars and the Ghana cedis. These are unit of measurement. Somebody can say, oh, $5 is more valuable because of the dollar, right? Dollar is more valuable than the cedi. So dollar is a unit. The cedi is a unit. But in this case, it is a currency, right? So unit of measurement is a way of measuring something. You want to talk about the height of a human being, we say feet. So I'm 6 feet or 6.2 feet. Or you can also use centimeters, right? So if I say 2 feet and then 4 feet, we know that the 4 feet is bigger than 2 feet. Because we know we have an idea of what feet is about. If you want to talk about the weather, you can say the weather is say 50 Fahrenheit. So once you say 50 Fahrenheit, and then another person also says 70 Fahrenheit, we know that the 70 is bigger than the 50. because both of them have the same unit, the same Fahrenheit is the same unit. But if I say the weather is say 50 degrees Celsius, and then I also say 50 degrees of Fahrenheit, 50 Fahrenheit, because the unit is not the same, Celsius and Fahrenheit, they are not the same. So it is not easy for you to compare the two. You have to do some conversion. You have to convert one unit to another in order to be able to compare the value. Like if I say $5 and then I say 50 Ghana cedis, it is not easy for you to tell me which one is bigger. You have to convert one into the other. Now you have the same unit. Now you can know which one is bigger, right? So in CSS also, we use units all the time. And the basic one that we use is the pixels. So, you know, a pixel is like a color, 1 unit of color in computers, in the language of computers. So, you know, so you can see if you say 200 pixels, you're like, just a unit of color, the smallest basic unit of color that you can get in a computer is called a pixel, the smallest one. So if you say, give me 200 of that, you are just compounding the colors, right? So in CSS, we're going to be using the pixels a lot. So I decided to put that first here. Sometimes, depending on what you're doing, you can use inches also, you know, because at the end of the day, you are just measuring a distance, or you are telling us how much of something that you want. So let me just demonstrate the pixels. We know we've seen the pixel before. I'll put this on the side. We've seen the pixel before. So we're gonna start adding colors here. If I want to add a color to this, what should I do? I need to have a style tag, right? I'm doing it in the header right now. It's one way of doing it. So I want to color, say, the H1 tag here. I want to give it a color. So I have to select it first, right? So the selector is H1. And what property do I want to change? The color. So specify the color. So what color do I want to give it? Say red. I'm giving it red for now. Oh, actually, I want to demonstrate pixels. So that's all right. We can use that also. So I'll give it the color red. Let me give it, say, font size. So font size, that is the size of the text in there. That one, the font, you have to specify, if you can specify it in pixels, say 40 pixels. I want to make the font size 40 pixels. If I save this and we refresh the page, you can see we got a color, but we don't care about the color right now. We care about the size of this. So let me make it, say, 60. I'm increasing it from 40 to 60. Remember, you have to save it, and then you see the font is becoming bigger. So the pixel is just a unit that the computer understands. And you're telling me, give me 60 of that. So of course you can make this any size that you want, depending on what you're developing, depending on what you're doing. Sometimes you want it very big, sometimes you want it very, very small, right? So this is 100 pixel, right? And the thing about pixels is always the same. Mostly, it's almost always the same. The size of a pixel, every computer understands it. It's a fixed unit. Some of the measurements are not fixed. They change depending on what you're doing. So let's look at some of them. So inches, centimeters, millimeters, we don't need to talk about all this. They are not important. You're barely going to use these ones, but CSS understands them also. Okay, so now let's talk about relative units. This is important. Percentage. So you can, instead of saying, let the size be 100 pixels, you can say 100%. This is a very bad move. So when you say percentage, what this is going to do is going to look at what is my parent. So H1, the parent is what? What is the parent tag for this one? Is the body, right?
The body, yeah.
Yeah, because it is inside the body. So it's going to look at the size of the body, and then give you exactly 100% of that. So if the size of the body is, say, 16 pixels, then it's going to give you 16 pixels. 100% of 16 pixels is 16 pixels. So this one is percentage, right? Percent means that divide it into 100 and take 100 of them. In other words, we're taking all of them. So if I say 20%, say 20%, it means that look at the parent element. If you know the size of the parent element, divide it into 100 and take 20. So you don't need to know all this. You're going to see it live anyway. So let's demonstrate the percent here and see how that works. You see, it's very, very small because we haven't specified the size of the parent, the body. So it's going to be default. But there's already default styling that is happening. You don't need to set them. I think that the body by default is going to be 16 pixels. The size is going to be 16. So if you're taking 20% of 16, obviously that's going to be smaller than 16, right? 20% of 16 is going to be smaller than 16, right?
Right.
Why do you say so? Could you explain why 20% of 16 would be smaller than 16? 20% of 16 would be smaller than 16. Do you want to try that?
Yeah, because it should be like 16 divided by 5.
Something like that, right? So that's the smaller number.
That should be 3 point something.
Yep, 100%. So let me just use another tag over here. I mean, I don't intend to drag this because you don't have to exactly know the difference, because you're going to be using it a lot and you're going to get comfortable with these units anyways. But I just want to say, add a class here to demonstrate a class, say percent, let's call it percent. And then I'm calling this percent. So it is a class, so we have to begin with a dot. And I want to set the font size here, font size to 16 pixels. So I'm going with the assumption that, the parent body will have a font size of 16. And so let's see what this is. This does to us. Let's just see. So I just created, let's not call this tech mastery. Let's call this software development. So, we can play with this all we want, but you're going to appreciate it when we do a project, which we need to speed up because we want to get to a project. So this is a size of 16 pixels. And then this is what? 20% of this. Let's see. Let's make this 100% now. I'm hoping that the size would be nearly the same. So actually, because this is, maybe this is not even 16, it's probably less than 16 pixels. But we can make it 16 pixels. We can force it to be 16 pixels, yeah. And just say style equals. Then we can say font size. Font size of, we can make it 16 pixels there. Let's see what happens now. Save. And now let's refresh that. So it was 16. This one is not changing. So again, this looks bigger because it is capitalized. When you capitalize something, they are always bigger. So I'll do a little test here. I'm gonna replace this with that. When you watch the video, you're gonna catch up. Don't worry, guys. You see now they are the same size. So the H1 tag, I copied this and put it in there. And we are setting the font size to 100%. And the 100% of the parent's size. We are forcing the parent size to be 16 pixels over here, right? So this is going to be 16 pixels. And this one here to the H2, we are forcing the size of H2 to be 16 pixels. That's what we've done here. So now, if everything works as I said, they have to be the same. This and this have to be the same size. Let me make these two so that we can distinguish them. And as we can see, they are the same size. You see, the size is the same. So the percent is very, very powerful. Sometimes you want to use the percent. The things that you want to do, you need to use the percent. Otherwise, your life can be difficult, right? Because the size will depend on the parent's size or the size of the other elements that are next to it. Okay, so that is the percent. And this one also is a relative unit. Again, if I say relative unit, it means that it depends on the size of something else, right? So percent will depend on the size of the parent. If I move this element into this div over here, the parent of this element is going to be the div, not the body. So the size, if I use percent, is going to be based on the size of the div. So the EM is also relative, and it is based on the font size of the parent element or the element itself, if no parent font size is specified. So this one is very similar to what we just did, right? So the parent, if it doesn't have a font size set up, then it's gonna be based on the font size of itself, right? But even if the parent doesn't have a font size specified, I mean, it will go to the other parent, which is the grandparent here, HTML. But this one is the bigger one, everything is inside it. Let me cut this and do the indentation so that you can easily see it. Right, all of them are inside the parent HTML. Okay. So yeah, so if there is a font size and you use the EM, it's going to look at the font size and give you the percentage of that. Not exactly percentage, but it's gonna multiply it itself. This one is like double. Similar to percentage, it's gonna double. Like give me, if the parent size is 16, multiply 16 by 1.2. So this is gonna be slightly bigger than 16, right? Because 1.2 times 16, and then give that to me. Okay, so now this one here is very useful. It is relative to the root element's font size, root element. So now this one, the parent of this element is the body. But once we talk about, and if I move this into here, the parent is no longer the body, but what? The div. So the parent of an element can always be different depending on the location of the element, but the root element is always the same, which is the HTML. This is the root element. So you want the size to be relative to the root element, which is going to be a fixed number. And then you tell me, oh, multiply that number by 2. Like, let me demonstrate the rem, because we're going to be using, I love the rem, Like over here, instead of the font size, I could say, give me 2 rem. So all that I'm saying is that go to the root element, the size of the root element, multiply that by 2 and give it to me. So now if you come here, I mean, these are a lot of jargons, and as I know that the root element, the size is by default 16 pixels. So multiplying 16 pixels by 2 gives you 32 pixels. That is why this is twice the size of this. If I say, oh, just give me exactly, if I want to say, give me exactly the size of the root element, what do you think this number is going to be? I want exactly the size of the root element.
1.
It's going to be 1. Thank you. Perfect. And if it is 16, the size of this and this will be the same. Yep, you see, they're the same. And if I say, give me 1.5 the size of the root element, just say 1.5. It's very, very good unit to be using. Okay, so that's that.
And that's for the parent.
I'm sorry.
That's for the parent one.
Yeah, the rem is actually the EM is the parent. Even the percent is also the parent, but the root element is the root parent. This one is called root element. But everything else is inside it, right? Everything else on the page is gonna be inside this.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and the size is, you are not the one that specifies the size of that. It's given by the computer, but you can change it. I'm sure you can. I haven't seen anybody change it, but you can change it. You can set the font size. Oh, you can change it, right? Instead of 16, you can make it 50. And then if you say if you say 2 rem, this will be like 120 pixels. Actually 50 watt. You have to tell us what it is, pixels or anything. So now if we refresh, so you can play with things, right? Yeah, you see. At first it was 16. 16 is smaller than 50. So if you multiply by 2, so we play with the size, right? The units. It's very interesting concept, but you don't care about this. When you're developing, you are using this inherently, right? But so I need to mention this because it's very important. So the viewpoint, this one is called the viewport width, then the viewport height. So viewport is talking about the computer that you're using, the device that we are using. Device. So right now I'm using a Mac. So my view, I'm using the Mac computer. That is my view. So if I want to know the width of the screen of my computer, you can reference it using the view. The width, you have to say VW. So what is the width of your screen? It's VW. So you can, multiply that by 25. I don't know why somebody, so relative to the view width. Yeah, so you're saying give me 25. Is this percentage of the view width? I think it should be like percentage of the view width. So this would be like 25% of the width of your computer's monitor or screen. Does that make sense? So whatever the size is, this is going to be different depending on your computer. So let's just demonstrate the view width. It's not only for font size. You can use it for different properties. But for now, so view width, it's going to work for every computer. So let me make this like 50%, 50 view width. I'm expecting this to be very big. If it is like 50% of the view width, sorry, I'm supposed to go here, 50% of it. Can you see that? This is 50% of the size of my screen. And you can see it's doing exactly that, right? So this part of my screen is also, we're talking about the width. The width is from here to here. So you take half of that, it's about this long. And then you're making the font size that much bigger, right? I don't think anybody would do this. Any software would have this, but it's there in case you want that. So that's the view width. And if you are watching on a mobile phone, then the size is going to scale accordingly. So let's just make it 23%. Then you can do anything. Yeah, so I guess I just wanted to introduce you to these units that we have and we keep using. And I have them over here. So you can always come to this website and go through them in case you need any one of them. So this is the view height. The same way you can use the height and then specify percentage of that. But the minimum is talking about the smallest dimension. So the smallest of the height and the width. So in every computer, sometimes the height of the screen can be bigger than the width, or the width of the screen can be bigger than the height. So if you say view mean, that means that look at the height and then look at the width. The one that is smaller, take 2% of that and give to me. And then if you say view max means that check the screen, the one that is bigger, check the height of the screen and then the width of the screen. Take the biggest of them and give me 50% of that size. On a mobile phone, you can see that the height of the screen is always bigger than the width, right? Because mostly, yeah. So that is what these dimensions are for. So viewport-based units, these are units based on the size of the screen. We just covered all of them. And then font relative units, the ones that are based on the fonts. These are other ones that you can play with, but actually EM is based on the font. REM is also based on the font. So guys, any questions on units? Like units are things we see on a day-to-day basis. But in the CSS also, we have units, and these are the kind of units that a computer understands, right? You use them to do different things. Do you have any questions on this? Again, it's just a fundamental concept of CSS that I want us to understand. Just understand it, that there are units, CSS units, that's all. When we start using them, you're going to appreciate it more. So we are going to move to the next topic of the day, the colors, you know. Because we've been setting the colors, right? We've been using the colors. So I just want us to get a firm understanding of CSS colors. Because there is a whole concept of colors in CSS, right? Like you want to, what we just did over here, we wanted to specify the color of this text. So how do you specify that, right? So the way that most of us do it, you can call the color by name, red like this. What are some of the other colors that we know? Blue. Any color that you know in English, you can put it here, and mostly it's going to work. See, I selected blue. Let me change this font size a little bit. It's too big. I'm just going to use 2% of the viewport. 2% of the viewport. Okay. So the more you do it, you begin to have an idea of what the size is going to look like. But now we are focusing on colors. If you want to specify colors, right? Even the div, this div element, did we style it? Remember that we just have elements over here and we are styling them using the CSS code, right? You put the code for styling in the style tag, right? So I want us to get this div. If I want to select the div, do you remember how I'm going to do it? I'll say div, just call it by name. Because there's only one div over here. So I want to use something called background color property. And again, you can say light gray, any color that you know, any color name. So it's one way to set a color. And if you look at our notes, that is the first one, color name. You can use a color by calling the name of the color. So actually gray is not that visible. Maybe we can see it. Let me save this, refresh that. And yeah, so this is the div, and I'm setting the background color to gray, right? Yeah. So if I want to change this to any color, you just, any color that you know. Can you tell me any color that you know? I'll just type it.
Orange.
Okay, orange, that's good. We save it, and boom, the computer understands it, right? So as long as you know the color by name, you can use it. Can we move to the next way of setting a color?
Yes.
If you forget, the note is always here. This is the first. So now the hexadecimal notation. The hexadecimal notation, I think we have to understand the RGB first, then we go to the hexadecimal. So the RGB is one way. The R stands for red, green, and blue. So there is this concept of primary colors. Are you guys aware of that? Primary colors and secondary colors. Is this something that you've heard before? And what are the primary colors? What are the secondary colors?
No.
Okay, well, when I went to school in Ghana, they taught us this way back in primary school. I don't know if America, they cover these things, but primary colors are colors that exist by themselves, right? You don't form them by mixing colors together. Sometimes when you mix, say, blue and black, you're gonna get another color, a secondary color. So secondary colors are colors that are formed by mixing primary colors together. So I think that primary colors they exist by themselves, right? You don't need to mix anything to get them. So red, I believe red is a primary color, green is one of them, and then black. There are only 3 of them. All the other colors, orange is a mixture of, people who study this can tell you, orange is a mixture of, say, red and green, or a mixture of 50% of red and say 50% of black, then you get an orange, right? It's not a primary color. So the RGB notation, let's demonstrate how that works. It's very, very powerful. It allows you to form a color by mixing red, green, and blue together. So to form it, you just say RGB, and then you open a bracket. Now, so the first component is going to represent the amount of red that you want. The second one is amount of green that you want. And then the last one is amount of black that you want. If you say you want 0, 0, 0, it means that you don't want any red, you don't want any green, and you don't want any blue. So let's see what that's going to be. A color that is made up of no red, no green, and no black. That's going to be white. This is a white color, pure white. So let's just save this for the div background. Is it black actually? So that's black actually, guys. It's black, it's not white. So if you want to form black, you have to get rid of, oh, why is this black? It's interesting, right? So 0, 0, 0 is black. Okay, so one more thing I have to mention is, see, now there is some, so let me use this example. When I lived in Turkey, if they see anything that they like, they have to give it a number. So on the scale of 1 to 10, how are you going to rate this? And so they can, so this one is 10. It's a 10 for me. It's a 10 means that the person is perfect. And mostly you can rate men, women will rate men. And so this man is a 10, meaning he is very, very handsome. And somebody will say, no, he's a 5, he's a 4. And then you meet a woman to the same, the guys who say, oh, this woman is a 10. That means she's perfect and most beautiful. Then you can know this one is a 4. Like that. It's part of their culture, and they say it all the time. Everybody has a number, and it's kind of funny, right? So the bigger the number, the better, right? So the same concept, you're rating the colors from 0 to 255. If you want to have pure red, then you have to give it 255. And then the lower you go, it means that if you go down, then you're reducing the amount of red that you want. And then if you go to 0, obviously, then there's no red at all in the color.
So the white is 255 is at the bottom.
I'm sorry.
After, if you scroll down,
Okay.
that's the white is after. You see the 0, 0 below it, 255, 255.
Oh yeah. I understand. I know. Thank you very much. So like, if there is no, in the absence of red, green, and black, you get black. But if you give them the maximum, all of them at the maximum, that's what you're saying. Actually, there shouldn't be A here. I'll tell you why in a minute. But understanding these colors is so crucial, right, in computer science, because we meet them in so many different areas. If you say 255, that means you want the most red possible. Then you can also say 255. I also want the most green, and then the same here. Now it turned out this will give you a white color. It turned out. That's how you form a white color.
Why is why is the max 255? Where is that number coming from?
So this is an arbitrary number that they chose.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just an arbitrary number. 0 to 255. I can't see any significance of that number. But in computer science, sometimes we have 8, 16, 32, 64, 125. Those numbers make sense. There is a reason for them. But this 255, I can't think of any reason why they chose it. It's just a scale from 0 to 255.
Okay.
Yeah. So the point I'm making is that you can form colors by mixing a certain percentage of this red, green, and black. And then look at what we get as a result. Right, and it is so powerful. Now that's what we get. And now, the computer makes your life very easy by giving you a way to see what you're doing. So now this window, all of you will have on your computer, you can keep moving up and down. You see the numbers are changing. And then you can use this to, as you go, you see the numbers are changing. It's just a mixture of the 3 colors, and you're getting a different color. So if this is the color you want, if you don't want that, you can just move down. I want a little bit more blue. Then you just keep moving. And then once you have this, it picks it up for you. That's it. And then you save, and whatever that color is will show up. So this is one way of getting colors. Do you guys understand this one?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So now let's talk about the hexadecimal. Hexadecimal. Have you guys heard about hexadecimal before? Hexadecimal as a
Yes.
concept in computer science. Do you know any, you want to tell us anything about it that you can think of right now?
Yeah, any number, any what can I decimal that is more than 10. Is it 16? Sorry. I think it's 16
It's
or 12.
16.
I'm so sorry. Yeah,
It's
16.
16.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
if we start from on and off,
Mhm.
then we have 0,
Binary.
1, 2, 3 to 10.
Mhm.
Then from 10, computer cannot recognize your number, then they
Mhm.
convert to alphabet.
Yes, yes, yes. They convert to alphabet. So that he said it all, man. And we get, so human beings, we deal with a decimal system. Decimal means that we always count from 0 to 10. And it makes sense for us because we have 10 fingers. So it was easier for them to use the decimal figure because we number system, but we can easily understand, oh, I have 5 fingers, 4, 2, 3, up to 10. But 11, we couldn't really understand it much. And even our toes are also 10. So in the olden days, mathematicians saw that we can easily understand the decimal system, which is counting to 10 and then starting all over again. That's where you start from 0. Once you reach 10, you start combine. You reach 9, you start to combine the same digits again. 1, 0, like that. So computers, they'll have the binary system. So binary is the same as the decimal. Anything that you have in decimal, you can convert into binary. Binary means it's only zeros and 1, 0, 1. And then instead of 2, you have to go back to say 1, 0. So you are not counting in tens anymore, you are counting in 2s. So there's a lot of zeros like this. This is binary, so the number will keep growing like that. Because it's only, if you say 0 and then 1, and then if you want to say 2, you can't say 2, because in the same way, when you are counting from the decimal, you cannot say, when you reach 10, you can't say, actually 10 is like you're starting to reuse the decimals. You start counting from 0 to 9, and then 10, you have to start using 0 and 1. And then you keep going, you start using the numbers that you've seen before. But once you reach 19, instead of saying 20, 20, you go back and reuse 2 and 0 like that. So the whole point is that if you're using base 10, as soon as you count to 10, you have to start using more zeros. More zeros will come like that. So like a lot of things are very, very big, that if you want to use the number, the decimal system to capture them, it becomes a little bit uncomfortable, right? Because like, look at $1 million. $1 million has how many zeros? 6 zeros, right? And then 1 trillion will have 9 zeros. And then the zeros are becoming bigger and bigger. So they created another number system that is not limited by the base 10, but it's limited by 16 characters. So once you count from 0 to 9, now the 10, instead of saying 1, 0, you're gonna say A. So 10 is A, B, I think B, C, D, E, F, something like this. So in the hexadecimal system, number system, A is actually the number 10. B is the number 11, so that before you begin to get to number digits, you need to count to 16 first. So that is the point of hexadecimal. You just have to have an idea of it, right? But in computer science, sometimes it comes up over and over again, number systems and all of this. So hexadecimal, the same. So right now you can see 206 is a number that is specified in the decimal system. If you have a number in decimal system, you can convert it from decimal to binary. That is zeros and ones. You can also convert it from decimal to hexadecimal, right? So if you look at what I just said before, if I have the number 16, if 16 is decimal, if you convert it to hexadecimal, it's going to be F. It's going to be F. So in the computer's memory, if you enter 16 and F, and you tell him that this is, you have to tell it what it is. If you say 16, we don't know what it is. Is it base 2 or base 10 or base 16? We don't know. So normally once you write numbers like this and you don't specify the base, we know that it is base 10, because base 10 is the standard, right? But if you tell it that this F is 16, it will know that they're going to be the same as what? 16. So this 16, you can convert it into base 2 also, something like some couple of zeros and ones. I don't know what, I can look it up, right? And you can always come back here. You can say decimal to hexadecimal converter. My point is already made, guys. I'm just happy sharing these things with you guys. It's coming too long. Let me just use online. Just want to show you some tools. It's just a number system, right? You can convert decimal. We all know we did some of this in the past, right? Convert this number from base 10 to base 2. Convert this number from base 2 to base 10. So all the point I'm saying is that now this same color that we have here, you can convert it into hexadecimal and then specify that. That becomes the hexadecimal notation. That is what we call the hexadecimal notation. So the easiest one that I remember off my head, let me demonstrate that, and then I will show you how to, the side that I went there now. See, I think this side is making the computer slow, but we'll see. The site is slowing down the computer. I might have to turn it off. Okay, so we know that, as Afanawa pointed out, if you have the most black you can have, oh my God, the computer is slow now. I might have to, let me just close this, guys. I don't know what they did on the side, but it's resource intensive. I'll remove this also. Okay, so now the most green we can have, and then the most red we can have, we're gonna have a white color. Okay, so this is not 255. It has to be 255, right? Sorry, guys. So now we get a color white, and then we can demonstrate. See, this one is changing to white. Okay. Now, if you want to represent this in in hexadecimal notation, we just have to begin with a pound. Say pound. And then what is 255 in hexadecimal? It's FF. I know this because I've looked it up. So the number 255 in decimal, if you convert it into hexadecimal, is FF. So the first two characters is for the red. How much of red do you want? So the second one is for green. So I want another FF. And then the last one is black. I also want another FF. So that's like 255. So you see, I'm still having the white color. If I refresh this, it's still the same. And in hexadecimal notation, now all number systems, they begin from 0, right? So if I want to have the bare minimum, the black one, which is 0 red, 0 green and black, it's just 0, 0, 0. You can use 2, 0, 0 is for red, 0, 0 for green and that. See, we ended up having black. Sorry, I have to save this. And you can see. So now you can see that once you know the RGB color, you can always convert it into the hexadecimal. But you don't need to worry yourself. If the color palette will come up, you can keep moving around. You are just picking the color you want. Once you get it, it will specify the color in hexadecimal for you. Then just hit OK. Or you just choose it, hit outside, and it works. Right? And sometimes also you can pick the color on the internet somewhere. They will represent the color in RGB. They can also give you the hexadecimal. So once say color picker, CSS color picker. Right? A big place. You just go through the colors once you have the color that you want, just move around. Oh, I love this color. And it gives you the hex version of that color. You can just copy it and put it in your code. And then boom, if you save it, the same color comes in your code. And it's works. And then if you go to any website and you see a color that you love, any website, you can just inspect the page and then it will tell you what the color is. And you pick the color, you just come and use it in your code. That's all. So this is a very interesting lesson, guys. CSS colors. And I think the other piece of the puzzle that I have to mention is the idea of opacity, RGB. So let's say 255, 222, anything. So there is a fourth component that you can add. Oh, what am I doing? There's a fourth component, right? This one has to be between 0 and 1. So 0 means the bare minimum, and then 1 is the highest. So this one we call it opacity. Opacity is about how the dimness of the color. You want the color to be transparent, or you want it to be opaque. So opaque means that you can't see through. Transparent means you can see through. So sometimes you want to make a light. So this is what you use for that. The last, the fourth component. And let's just refresh this. You see now this is 1. It's 1 by default, and it is still 1. Let me reduce that. I'm gonna reduce the opacity. I'm gonna reduce in this, like say 0.5. 0 is between 0 and 1 anyway. So you save it. Now this will become transparent a little bit. You see, it dims a little bit. So if you want to dim the color, then you have to use this. If I say 0.1, because this one, your manager will tell you, I want you to dim the color. I don't want the color to be too bright, right? It's almost like it's not there. And the only way to do it is to use this. So now the hexadecimal number system, usually you don't have the ability to dim the color up and down. And then if you are calling the color by name, you don't have the ability to also dim the color up and down. RGB allows you to do that. Actually, if you're going to be doing that, then you don't say RGB anymore. You say RGBA. You put the A here. That means you're going to have 4 arguments in here. But it looks like it didn't care that we used RGB. It still worked for us, right? So the last color system is the HSL. Actually, there are 4 color systems out there. It's just flexibility, right? So this one, we call it the hue color system that we can use. So this one, the reason I want to show this also is it gives you the ability to specify the opacity, right? So there are only 2 ways. If you want to specify the opacity up and down, then you can use the RGBA or you can use the HSL. But really do we use this one? But it's there in case you want to use it. Just a choice, right? So how does this work? Let me demonstrate the HSL. So the HSL, the first number is called the hue. So this is the color system. This one, instead of 0 to 255, it goes from 0 to 360. So it goes from 0 to 360. So let's say 360 here. The first number can be from 0 to 360. Then the other 2 numbers, they have to be percent. And I'll show you what they mean. So this one has to be percent. Percent means out of 100. So I can say 80% here. Then the second component also has to be percentage. And once we do this, we have our color. So now, this one is very difficult to understand mentally, because between 0 and 360, part of it is, so 0 is red, obviously. If the first number is 0, it's red. But if you want blue color, the first number has to be, say, 237. So 237 is blue. And if you want, say, yellow is 73. Just focus on the first number. And then, so all the colors are embedded in the first number. and the highest is 360, right? So when you talk about 360, you are thinking of a circle, right? 0 to 360, but I don't want to go into that. It's not important, right? For us. But now, what are the other two, right? It's not easy to know which of this. If I want to say I want blue color, I would never know this, but you can just type it and then come here and pick it visually, right? Just move it until you get what you want. But now let's see something carefully here. As I'm moving this up and down, you can see that it's only the first number that is changing, right? The color is changing, and the first number is the only one changing, right? So the color is actually determined by the first number only, the color itself. And then now the second component, they call it the saturation. Saturation is like how much of the color do you want, right? You see, if you go this way, like you want the color to be very deep, and if you go this way, it's like you want it to be light, right? It's almost like opacity, but it's not opacity also. Right? Here it's almost like the color is not there, but it's there, So this is controlled by the second number. And then the A, which is the alpha value, actually the A is the lightness of the color. So that one, I think this one, yeah, you see, as I move this one, it's only the last component that is changing. That is the lightness of the color. But it is also different from opacity. Lightness and opacity is different. The meaning is very close to each other, but they are different. Okay, so you understand this, right? And that's HSL color model. And that's how it works. And in case you want to specify the opacity, you can do it. Just add a third. You can add A here, just call the alpha value. And it's always between 0 and 1. So it's 0.5. And we say we have it. Yeah, so if I increase this to say 0.7, then it's going to become deeper and deeper, right? That's the color palette. Okay, that's it. Yeah, so that's all about CSS colors. Anytime you want to do coloring, you can think in the context of this 4 color palettes. Maybe in the future they're going to develop more. I don't know. So I'm going to talk about the box model. Then we talk about display, and then we build the project, and then we are done. So we still have 2 things to cover. So the box model, we went through it last week. So I'm going to be brief about it. Now, I'm still going to cover it again because it was toward the end of the class. But I'm going to be very fast. I wouldn't say be fast, but I'll make sure that we all understand it. So, guys, what do you understand by the box model?
Ibrahim said that he'll be back. He put in the chat.
Oh, okay. So because we did it last week, I think he will be fine. He can pick up. So do you have any understanding of the box model? So this box model is the most important thing that you need to know. Actually, this one and display. This is the most important concepts that you have to know, right? So the idea of the box model is that if you go on a web page, everything that you see there, every element that you see, it's a box. It's a box. Every element that you see here is a box. So you have to think of it like a box. And then it has some names and parts of the box, right? That you want to remember. You want to remember parts of the box. And then if you want to change some parts of it, once you have the box in your mind, you know which part of the box I want to change, right? Or if you want to change, say, the top of the box, it's easy to know what to do if you are thinking of it as a box, right? So the box model, very, very powerful concept. Do I still have you guys? Are you all still following me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, please, I think this is the most important concept. I'm saying it again. Once you understand the box model, CSS will be very easy for you. Very, very easy. There is nothing you will do amazing things, guys. The box model. So, and it's not complicated, you can see, very short. So let's demonstrate the box model, exactly what it is. So, do you guys think that I should create a new file for that? Or we can still use this? Is this code messy?
New
think
file, please.
A new file, right?
Mm.
Okay, okay. So, thanks. I'll just say box model .html. We go in there, and then I'm just gonna hit this and then enter. We have the boilerplate. So any element that we can think of, let's just use a div for now. Div is an element, and it has a value inside, say tech mastery. If I save this and review in the browser, good. Everything is good now.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of the box model is that this is a box, and how does the box looks like, right? Let me show this, bring this up so we can see the way the box looks like. Yeah, I think even this one is good. This is a good demo. Let me zoom in. It's not clear though, honestly. But the innermost, so this is the way the box looks like. This is the way it is. So the innermost space of the box, that is where the content of the element will go. The content of the element we created is what? Tech mastery. So tech mastery will go in the middle, the innermost. So, but you can also see there is another space around it, this space. We call it padding. Padding. I don't know if this is not that clear, but padding. And then there is another space after the padding is called what? Border. Border. And it surrounds it. Then the last one is what? The margin. The margin. This is the box. If you can always remember this box when you're designing the page, the front page of a site, you will always do it very, very fast and effortlessly. Very, very effortless. Nobody will tell you where to change. You will know exactly where to change. So now, whatever the content is going to be in the middle. If I want to add some space between the borderline, and then the content, which is the padding, I have to use padding. So padding, you just have to specify how much space. We know how to specify that. You can use pixel, you can use rem, you can use all the units, but we can just use pixel. So once you're doing that, you'll be increasing the space between the border and the content. If you are increasing the padding, then you are increasing this space here. But the margin is the space between the element and other elements on the page. If you want to space out the elements, let's say the elements are close to each other and you want to space them out, you have to set the margin. Just say margin and then specify, and then it will increase this space for you. And then it allows you to space out the documents. So now let's demonstrate this. Also, you see the pattern, it's around the whole box. So the top part of it, the top, we call it the top. So you can say padding top. If you just want to put space at the top here only, you say padding top. If you want to put space between here, you have to say border top, margin top. If you don't, and then if you want to put the space at the bottom of the content, you say the bottom, padding bottom, border bottom, margin bottom, bottom. And then if you want the left, this side, just say the left and the right also. But if you don't tell us the top, bottom, and the right, whatever you specify will be applied to the whole box. And let's be mindful of the dimensions, right? So let's try to demonstrate this with our page, our new page. Okay, so I'm going to start adding colors. So I'm gonna say style and then hit tab. Tab. So let me start again. if I say style and then you hit tab, it's gonna finish it for you. So we want to, it's only one div here. So we select the div and then we want to say, let's show the border. Because right now the border, you don't see it, but it's there. So let's just say show the border. If you want to show the border, the property is what? Border. So the whole point is you have to know the name of the property. And there are many properties. It's very easy to forget all of them. But if you are thinking about a box model, you will not forget that there is a border property, there is a padding, and there is a margin. A lot of what you do, you'll be using padding, border, margin, padding, border, margin. So now we specify the border. So the way the border works, we went through the other time. You have to tell us the pixel, the size of the border. So let's say 2 pixel, very small. There are many different types of the border. You want it to be solid. You want it's just a line, solid. And then what is the color? You tell us the color of it, say red. It could be any color. So I save it. So I'm picking this element and I'm saying that the border component of the element. Normally when you say border, you're talking about the space around something, right? It's the same thing. So let's now refresh this and see. You see? This is the space around it, the space around it. Okay, and because I don't want this to be too big like this, I want to specify the width. The width is too big for me. It's taking the whole screen, so we can limit it. We can say, make the width, say 50%, let me say 25%. 25% of what? The root size is fine. So we can have it like this. Make it a little shorter. Even this is too big, make it like 15. So you always experiment, right? Okay. Now, we just set the border.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
So let's say that you want to center the tech mastery. Would you put center?
Let's try that. If I say center,
Mhm.
let's see what happens. Center. See, center here is now, it's not a property, it's a value, right? So we need to know that.
It's a value.
Normally align is you want to align the stuff, align the content and all of that. But I know by experience that is the text align that you want to use. The text align means in this div, everything that is in it, the text align it to what? Center. If I save it.
Oh, okay.
Now that works.
Okay.
So I'll teach a little bit about the text also. It's very useful. A text align will center it for us. Thank you. Now this looks beautiful. So we are going back to the box model. We can set the border. Now, if I want to increase the space between the content, we always know that the way the box model works, the content is in the middle, right? It's in the inner. And then we have the border. But if I want to increase the space between the border and the content, I have to use padding. So I just have to say padding. Pad. You want to pad it a little bit. Very easy concept. Once you get a hold of it, man, your life will change forever. So let me just say 5 rem. This is the height of CSS development. You're always thinking in terms of these 3 things. And then display. You add display and the box model, then you are a master. So a lot of the things we've done in the past is just introduction, very useful introduction. But to be able to do things a lot, you need the box model and the display. So 1 second, please. Okay, thank you. So now we just increase the space, the padding here. Let's see what that is going to do. There you go. You see what it did? I'm just increasing the padding and see the border stays exactly where it is. And the space between the border and the content is increasing. If I make this 7, right? Is Ibrahim back with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay, thank you, sir. Do you understand this thing? The
Yeah.
box model?
Mhm.
I think the box model is the magic wand in the CSS development,
Mm.
the box model and the display. Once you know the two, after we learn the display, we're gonna build this very, very easily. You will see what I showed you, just using the two principles. The two principles. Okay. So you guys are masters now. I'm very, very excited that you are masters now that you are learning box model and display. So if I want to add that, but now, if assuming there were other elements on the page that I want to space out, put spaces between them, based on the box model, is the margin. The margin. Okay, if I want to increase the size of the border, you know what it is. It's just this one. I'm just make it 12 pixels. And if I'm increasing the size of the border, then it will become bigger. There's the border. But in many companies, they just want 1 pixel. Managers, they like to say, make it 1 pixel. When they are giving you the requirement, you say, this is what 1 pixel will look like in a typical industry. But you can make it any size also. So let's just make it 15 and leave it like that, right? Now I want to add space between this and other elements. There are no other elements, but we can add one too. So we see, we just use the margin property, and specify what space you want to add. Let's say 5 pixel, 5 rem. Size of the root parent is always the same, doesn't change. And boom, look at what happened. It's putting space around this. You know, so if there was another element, it will be spacing that out that way. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the box model. But let me add another element here so we can do them together. We can space them also. So I'm gonna ask a question. If I save this and I refresh the page, can somebody tell me what's gonna happen? I just created another div. Looking at this code, if I save this, what is gonna happen here? Do you want me to do it? Okay, let's go through what's happening now. See, we have 2 elements. All of them are what? What elements do we have here?
Div.
Divs. They are all divs, right? And what styling are we doing? The styling that we are doing, we are applying it to all divs, right?
So it will make another border just like that.
Just like that. And then it will center
Global tech mastery inside of it.
Yep. Because this is all this, so it will just apply to this. So that's the beauty of the CSS. Once you write one CSS, you can apply it to many places, different pages. That's the beauty of it.
As long as you use div, you can make as many as you want.
Yeah, as long as you use div. If there is any other div on the page, whatever you do will apply to all of them. Sometimes you don't want it like that. That's why you can use the ID, and then you can force only one element to have this, and then the other element should also be, you want the other element to behave in a different way, stuff like that. So now if I refresh this page, boom, exactly as Afanawa said, we have 2 divs, each of them have the same behavior, right? Now let's inspect the page. There's something called inspection, which is very, very important. Any site that you go, if you go to inspect, you can see the code that the front end is using. So in our case, you can see our code. We have the head tag. The head tag is up to here. And then we have the body and the HTML. So the head section, the body. If you collapse it, it will show you everything that is in the head, the title, start, and then the styles. It's going to even show you the styles that we have, right? So they don't hide it, right? You can pick, if you see a site and you love the style, you can pick some ideas from the back. It's not illegal to do that. Okay, so what I want to show you is the box model. So if you want to see, you see the box is at the bottom here, go to computed. So now we see, if we go in the middle, that's the the content goes here, padding, border, margin. Simple concepts. Now let's select the first box. So the sizes of the first box is showing here for me. So the content, this is the size of the content. The width is always the first element. It's 240 pixels, the width. Then the height is 19.5 pixels. This is the content. You see, if you hover on this, it's selecting the part of the page that this is referring. If I move to the border, look, the border is 112 pixels wide. The width is 112 pixels, you see? And if I go to this is the padding, sorry, the padding area. Then if I go to the border itself, now it's highlighting only the border. Now look at the margin. The margin is the space around it. And see something. I said that the margin is the space between the object and other elements, right? So look at the space between the top box and the second one. You see that the margin is exactly 80 pixels and is hitting the other element, right? Now, let me select the other element also. I'm selecting it. So now if I go to the margin, you see. So if the margin for the second box is supposed to have a top margin of 80, as you can see, and the first box is supposed to have a bottom margin of 80, then you would expect that the space between this and this would be what? 160 pixels, right? Because see, this one has 80 at the top, and then you see 80 pixels. And then if we select, you click on this and then you hover on the first one, it also has 80. So the space should have been 180 between the two, but it's not, because the margin, they collapse into each other. The box that has the biggest margin will win. That's the margin. Okay, so that is all about box models. And there are a few techniques that we have to mention. I'm gonna try to mention them now. So like one more trick here. For instance, instead of using the margin around the whole box, I can just say margin bottom only, bottom. Like I said before, and then just use just specify 5 rem. You see now I'm not using the pixels that much, but you can use the rem, you can use the pixels. You have the flexibility. Now this is what happens. Guys, can you really see what happened? So the margin, we are just forcing the bottom only to have the margin. And see, the left margin is gone. See here, the top margin is gone. The right is also gone. And if you inspect it, you'll see that. If you go to the back, it's easy for you to see that. It's easy for you. Just hover. And then you can see, look at the margin. See, the 80 is at the bottom, but the left, there is no margin. That's why there's a dash over there. There's no margin, there's no margin. Right? So you can manipulate this whichever way you want in order to get what you really desire. Okay, so that's the concept. The last thing that I need to mention, there is a property called the box sizing property. The box sizing, normally people set it to the border box. And let me explain what that means. You see that when you have an element, you always want to specify the height of the element, right? So the divs, you may want to say, I want the height. Let me show you what happened. The height of this element to be, say, 100 pixels. And then you say you want the width to be 50. Say 60 pixels. Now let's save this and then let's see what happens. See, you want the height to be 100, you want the width to be 60, and we have this. Now let's do the inspection and then we see what happens at the back. go to computed to make this slightly bigger. Select the first element. Now look, it's 100 by 60. 100 by 60. So like I said, the weight is always the first one. So it's 60 and then 100. And then look at the border. The border is 112 pixels. And then the padding, then the border is 15. So these numbers are not included in the height of the element. The height that you set doesn't include the padding and the border. So sometimes this one can create confusion a little bit. So a lot of people want to say that if I specify the height, I don't want it to be just the content box. I want it to be the border box. So in that case, it's going to make sure that the whole thing up to the border is going to be the 100 pixels, right? It's easy to manage the code that way. Otherwise, you know, your life can be a little bit difficult. So the way you do it, you have to add this thing, very important, borders sizing, a box sizing, sorry, box. You don't need to remember it. You can always look it up. Anytime. So when you think of the box model, always remember this concept also, that if I'm setting the height and the width, do I want it to be the content box or the border box? So a lot of people go for the border. Then we set it. So now what's going to happen is it's going to force everything to become 100 pixels. The way I'm setting this RAM, this is bigger than 100 pixels. So let me see what's going to happen. This is a bad code because the sizing, I want everything. I want the padding and the border, the content box. I want everything to be 100 pixels. But here, this 7 RAM is actually bigger than 100. But let's see what happens. Maybe it's going to make it shorter. Sometimes it's okay to make mistakes and see what happens. So just refresh this. Yeah, so what we did, this one is very important. It's going to ignore some of this and force it to be 100 pixels height. But let's inspect it and see what happened though. Because this one is no longer centered, which means that something funny could be happening. Okay, so we select this one. Let's select the first box. Surprisingly, the content box has 0, 0. So let's look at the border box. So why is this still 112? So again, like I said, when you are setting the dimensions, we need to make sure that it makes sense, right? But right now, the dimensions that we set doesn't make sense. So the box is abnormal. But we are saying that I want the height from here to here to be 100 pixels. But this alone is a 112 pixels, and this is 15 pixels. If you add this up, that is bigger than 100. This is what? 127. So we want to make those things make sense. So for now, let me just pick a number that is slightly bigger than the sum of all of this and see. But again, this is something you will learn by practice. You'll be making mistakes and then you learn as you go. Even this one, I still don't think there is enough space for the contents to be set. 1 second, please. I know our time is going too, guys, but we'll try to. We definitely need to do the project. Gosh. So some of the width is overridden down there. Also, we have 2 widths. That's also part of the problem. Why would you have 2 of them, right? So let me remove 1. See, but it doesn't matter because the one at the bottom overrode the one at the top. So the last styling that you have is the one that would win. So this is not that centered. I'm trying to see why this is not centered. 1 second. So select that and So the content itself is, the height is 46 here. And 46 plus 15. I'm just want to compute the height, okay? So the middle is 46. I'm using a calculator, guys. 46 plus 112 plus 15. So it's 173. And then we have to add another 112 plus 15. 300 pixels. Yeah, so if you sum all of this, you'll get a 300 pixels that we set here. So it is working. It is working as expected. And then the width, we want the width to be 60. Actually, the width is what doesn't make sense. So now the height makes sense, but the width doesn't make sense. Why am I saying that? Right now, you see the border width is 15. The padding is 112. So let's sum them. 15 plus 112 plus. You have to say plus 127 again. So the border, see 15, 15, that's 30, and then plus the padding 112, and then another 112 over here. So if you add these four numbers, you are having 254, right? Before you add the one in the middle, this one here. So right now it is 0, right? But even just the 4 of this is giving you 254. And we gave it 60, which is crazy. It doesn't make sense. So let's make this slightly bigger than this, say 300. Now that's a number that would make sense based on the dimension that we have selected, right? Things have to make sense. Otherwise, you see something like this. You want this to be in the middle, but it's not in the middle. You see now, it's as soon as we balance out the numbers properly, you can see that this is in the middle. Did you guys see what I was doing?
Yeah.
Was it complicated? There's a lot of math there as you saw it. Guys, could you give me some feedback, please? If you don't understand it, I can repeat what I said, because we gave some dimensions that didn't match up, right? The dimensions that we gave were not practical. So I just had to think and make it practical, that's all. But right now, even the content box, the weight of the content box is very small. That is why the tech mastery is on 2 lines. If I want this to be on 1 line, I have to increase this width a little bit, say make it 350 pixels. But when you see the problem and you can tell the cause of the problem, then you are ready to become a web developer. And you can see we are just using the basic principles, right? You're thinking of it as a box. So this one is now okay, but because the text is too long, let me increase this to say 70 pixels. And still it doesn't cover this. So let me just have to increase this. Let me make it 400. And hopefully that works. Yeah, 400 is able to give me enough width for the content that I had inside. So guys, I see this looks like a complicated concept, but if you watch the video and you don't understand it, you can bring it up again, and I would do well to explain it one more time. But all I'm saying is that when you're specifying the padding, whatever width you give to the border, and then the content, you see padding at the top, padding at the bottom, border at the top, border at the bottom. So you multiply that by 2 every time. And then if you give it a width, when you sum all of them up, they have to make sense. You can't say from here to here is 100 pixel, but from here to here is 50 pixels. It won't make sense. From here to here should be 50, and then from here to here to be 100. That doesn't make sense. So it will not work for you. It will look very stupid on the screen until you make sure the numbers are matching. Anyway, that was a good problem to fix. Do you have any questions? Otherwise, we can move to the display, and then we do the properties. We after the display, we are going to start building this, and it will be fast, right? Because of what we just learned. But I'm hoping that you have a minute. That's all. In case you don't have time, you can let me know, but then we can do this tomorrow. But I really wanted us to have a feel of this, right? How this works. So let me take some feedback from you. What do you guys think? Do you want me to continue or?
Like me, probably we should do it tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so now we are going to vote, right? We had half an hour and Tina, what do you think? One of you have to say tomorrow, and then it's tomorrow.
Okay. Sure. Let's do it tomorrow, because then we have fresh mind again. We can start off with it.
Okay. Okay, then we will do that tomorrow. So,
Then it can absorb more.
okay. Thank you, guys. And I would encourage you to find any tutorial that you can find on the box model and try to soak it in, because it's all about the box model, guys. You know, as you saw what was happening here, and then practice it if you can. Do you want me to give you homework or no?
That's fine with me.
Okay, so thank you, guys. So you have a homework. Even if you are not able to do it, don't worry, come. Okay, we'll still, because we're not gonna start practicing what we know, so it will be okay. So what I want you to try to do over here, I'm having two divs, this and this. Please add a third one. And then try to use different designs, right? So I will add it here for you. Just add a third one. Or maybe I shouldn't add it. You do it at home, fine. So that's add a third div. And what I want you to do is, right now, whatever design that I'm giving, I'm selecting the div, so it applies to all the boxes. I want you to design them differently. So your boxes don't have to be the same size. In fact, make them different sizes, but you're going to design them differently, right? But right now, whatever design we put is going for all of them. Don't do that. Design this separately, and then the third one also design it separately. It could be just changing the colors or the height or the border, change something to make them different. And that's all that I want us to do. And if you have more time, you can put more things in the divs also. If you want to put things in here, this is a paragraph. You can always add more things here. You can add, say, you can add a paragraph tag over here. Lorem for tab. You can add things in there, and they will all come in there. And then you can even add anything, image, or whatever. So just play with these boxes, okay? So say Lorem, I'm gonna add a little bit more. It's just a homework, guys. Lorem. Oh gosh, so now computer is with Lorem, say 15 and tab, and then save it, and right. So now my text is too much, it's going out. Can you guys tell me why this is going out and what I can do to make it come in here? That's the last question.
Increase the width.
Increase the width. Increase the width. Actually, when you say the width, you're talking about here to here, though. So the width is
Decrease
always
the
from
height.
here to- Thank you. Height from here to who said that?
Justina.
Good job, Justina. You see, you are built as a software developer, but you don't know. That was a very good answer. I appreciate it. So now this is the height. Let's say make it 400 so that it can contain it. Make it 400. Let's see if that worked. And boom. And this is a common problem you can face in the industry. But if you don't know what you are doing, you can spend a whole day and you will not be able to make this go inside the box. So you are lacking the basic understanding that there is something called a width and the height, and there's a box model, and there's a content, and there's da. Guys, very excited that we are learning about this. And tomorrow when we are building this, you guys will appreciate how this, what we just learned, is useful. In designing this, we can design this all by ourselves. We don't even have to Google anything. We can do this just using the principles that we know. It's beautiful, right? And there's nothing more, Ibrahim, there's nothing more anywhere. I mean, the industry, if there is anything more, I will tell you, okay? But once we do, like, we're gonna do a lot of projects though, about 5 to 10, even 15, a lot of projects before we move to JavaScript. Because once you have the HTML and CSS, it's a complete package. You can do a lot, you can design a lot of things. Then once we start JavaScript, then you're going to be building games and very high level stuff. But that's all there is to it, man. Okay, so any questions for me as I prepare to end the class?
So are you going to send this one, this record to us?
Yes, sir. I'm gonna put it on YouTube, and I'll share the link in the group.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I will also share the link to the notes that we're using. Now it's our own site, as you know, so it's very good. But I would warn you not to try the other tutorials because they are still under development. But this is pretty good, the CSS. Okay. Any other question?
No, I'm all set.
Okay, Tina, are you gonna be able to join tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Please try to join. Okay, tomorrow will be the day.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so that being said, thank you all for coming. And
Thank
Tina,
you, sir.
I'm gonna send you a video so you can try to see if you can download the Visual Studio code. If you are not, if you're not able to do it, can you text me and let me know in the team?
Okay.
And if you want us to get back on Zoom, we can do that.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
up to you. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. You're welcome. Thank you
Thank
all
you.
once again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. I 1 second though. I also encourage you guys to help each other. You can reach out to one another and assist each other. You can have meetings, when I'm not there, and then do the practice together, right? Let's say we have a class today, Tina, you're not able to come, and half an hour is there and Ibrahim is there. You can text them and then see if they can be available to help you catch up. Because
Okay.
when you teach, you are learning again. To teach is to learn twice. So you are really giving them the opportunity to learn if you say that they should teach you, because if they know they are going to teach, they will prepare well, and it's a gift actually that you're giving them. So please, let's be encouraged to reach out to one another for that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I'm always available too. So,
Okay. Great.
all right.
Okay.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. So,